Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, whose life are you living? Are the choices you make really yours? Or are you trapped in a role written by others? Carl Jung discovered a path. It's not easy, it's not quick, but it's the only one that can take you back to who you truly are. If you feel like something's missing, that the emptiness never goes away, maybe this video is the sign you needed. Jung's path to being yourself. Don't waste your life living someone else's. The life you're living, is it really yours? Some people wake up every day like they hit repeat on their own existence. Get up, have coffee, go to work, come home, watch something, sleep, and repeat. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself if this script is actually yours, or if you're just following the one they handed you? Family, school, media, even that well-meaning cousin, everyone has opinions about who you should be. And then, without realizing it, you start living a life plan you don't even remember choosing. It's like putting on a costume and forgetting there's a body underneath. Life keeps going, and you stay there, playing a role so well that you actually believe you are that character. But deep down, restlessness appears. A voice whispers, "Wasn't it supposed to be different?" And sometimes it screams, when you feel empty for no reason, when everything seems right, but nothing makes sense. That's the spark that ignites the process, if you have the courage to listen. Anyone who's tried dropping out of college because they didn't identify with it, or changing careers at 30, knows living your own life takes guts. It requires letting go of others' approval, questioning standards, and often disappointing expectations. An example? Those people who left corporate to open a coffee shop, become artists, or start from scratch in another country. It wasn't easy for them, but it was real. And on this winding path, another figure starts to emerge, more intriguing than it seems. The persona, the mask that hides you. From childhood, we learn we need to behave a certain way to be accepted. Smile when you don't want to. Swallow your anger. Say thank you, even when something bothers you. Gradually, this social mask solidifies. It's what Jung called the persona. At work, you're the impeccable professional. With friends, you're the funny one. And on social media, the happy and successful one. But who are you when nobody's watching? The persona isn't the villain. It even protects. It serves as a filter that lets you navigate the world. The problem is when it becomes a prison. When you forget what your real laugh sounds like, your genuine tastes, your uncomfortable silences. Many only realize this when, at the height of success, they feel an unexplainable emptiness, like an actress who, at the end of the show, realizes she no longer remembers her own name. Want a simple test? Write down, without thinking too much, who you are, without using positions, titles, or labels. That alone shows how much of your answer comes from the mask. Another practical tip: observe situations where you force a reaction, a comment, a behavior. That's the persona acting. But hold on, it's not time to rip off the mask all at once. First, you need to understand what exists behind it, and sometimes what's hiding is darker than you imagine. The shadows call. There are parts of you that got swept under the rug. You know that jealousy you pretend not to feel, that urge to drop everything, or that talent you hide for fear of judgment? Well, all of this makes up your shadow. Jung said the shadow is the rejected side of personality. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's ignored. And what's ignored acts behind the curtains. The shadow appears in subtle ways, in the sharp comment, the irrational fear, the repeated procrastination. Sometimes it explodes in a moment of anger, an anxiety attack, or an existential crisis. The most curious thing, the more you try to hide this part, the more it controls you. It's like trying to hold a ball underwater. It always finds a way to surface, but not to destroy you. It wants to be seen. A powerful practice is writing about moments when you lost control, not to judge yourself, but to investigate. What hurt you? What were you trying to hide? An example, someone who was always praised for being calm might discover, when investigating their shadow, repressed anger from childhood, and this anger might be sabotaging relationships, decisions, even health. It's at this point that the journey starts getting more intense and also more revealing. The inner hero's journey. There's a moment when everything changes. It's not when something outside happens. It's when something inside you refuses to continue the same. Jung called this movement the hero's journey. And no, it's not movie stuff. It's real. It starts with a rupture, a discomfort, a loss, a difficult decision. You realize you can't keep living like before. And then, like a silent call, something pushes you inward. But nobody warns you this journey is full of thorns. You'll have to face your beliefs, your fears, your illusions. You'll have to let go of comfortable truths and embrace unsettling doubts. Remember Frodo in The Lord of the Rings? He didn't want to leave the Shire, but he knew he had to. That's how it is with you. Leaving the known hurts, but staying in the false hurts even more. Want a practical starting point? Start by asking yourself, what in my life is out of alignment with who I really am? It could be work, relationships, the way you express yourself. Then choose a step, small but sincere, toward what makes sense. It could be changing a habit, starting therapy, or just saying no where you always said yes. Because the next stage of this crossing will require even more awareness. The unconscious has the key. Some people think they're in control of their own lives until they realize they repeat the same mistakes, the same patterns, the same dramas. This isn't bad luck. It's the unconscious in command. Jung was direct. Until you make the unconscious conscious, your life will be guided by it, and you'll call it fate. It's like walking on a road blindfolded thinking you know where you're going. Spoiler, you don't. The unconscious carries old traumas, forgotten memories, ideas you never questioned. And all of this influences your choices. Why do you always choose similar partners? Why do you sabotage opportunities? Why do you feel not enough? Because deep down, there's an invisible narrative, and it only changes when you reveal it. A powerful exercise is keeping a dream journal. They're direct letters from the unconscious. Another practice, therapies like Jungian, which dive deep into this internal universe. But don't think bringing this to light is something quick. It's a process. It requires courage, consistency, and above all, presence. The unconscious doesn't reveal itself to those living on autopilot. You need to pause, observe, question. Only then do you start reclaiming the reins of your own story. And when that happens, something unexpected begins to emerge, as if the universe starts responding back to you. Synchronicities. The universe shows you the way. Have you ever had that feeling that something had to happen? Like bumping into a book that answers exactly what you were going through, or meeting someone who completely changes your trajectory. Jung called this synchronicity, when external events align with your internal world in a meaningful way. It's not coincidence, it's connection. A type of subtle dialogue between you and life. And when this starts happening, nothing seems random anymore. These signs appear all the time, but most people don't see them because they're too busy trying to control everything. Synchronicity isn't forced, it's perceived. It's when you're present that the improbable reveals itself. A real example? Steve Jobs talked about this when he said that looking back, the dots always connect. He was referring to intuitive decisions that, at the moment, didn't make sense, but later proved essential. Want to activate this kind of perception? Create a simple ritual of daily attention. It could be a moment of silence when you wake up, writing down the day's coincidences in a notebook, or reflecting on the week's unusual encounters. The important thing is staying sensitive, because the more you align with who you really are, the more the universe seems to conspire, and the next clues on this journey won't seem random anymore. The individuation process. Imagine living a life where you don't need to pretend anymore, where everything you are, your lights, your shadows, your contradictions, can coexist in peace. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming whole. Not perfect, not ideal, but complete. It's as if, gradually, you're putting together an internal puzzle, piece by piece, truth by truth, until the final image reveals yourself for the first time. Individuating isn't a spiritual retreat. It's a marathon of self-confrontation. It involves looking at what you reject, embracing what you love, and integrating what you never understood. It's understanding that inside you exists strength and fragility, reason and instinct, courage and fear. When this comes together, authenticity is born, and with it, freedom. An example? Instead of always trying to be the good guy or the strong one, you learn to be whole, and that transforms everything. Want to start individuation practically? Try writing a letter to yourself saying what you feel, desire, fear, but never had the courage to admit. Do this without filter, without pretense. Read it later in silence. This kind of honesty is already a step. And the most incredible thing? The more you approach this truth, the more the external world starts reacting differently, but not always the way you expect. The dangers of ignoring this path. Some people keep going through life on autopilot until their body screams, until Sunday night weighs heavy, until success feels like punishment. Ignoring the call of your own essence has a price, and it doesn't come with a bill. It comes with anguish, anxiety that doesn't pass, a feeling of emptiness, even surrounded by achievements. It's like living in a palace and feeling locked in a cell. Many think they're in control, but they're just running away from themselves. You know that restlessness that hits for no reason? That feeling of something's wrong, but I don't know what. It's your true self trying to manifest. When you live only to meet expectations, your body feels it. The mind gets tired, the spirit dries up, and life starts giving signals, projects that stall, relationships that get sick, illnesses that appear. All of this is an invitation, or rather, a warning. Something needs to change, and fast. But changing requires courage. It requires stopping hiding behind goals, lists, commitments, because deep down, it's not about having more. It's about being more, and for that you first need to discover who you are, or better, who you stopped being to please others. This discovery, though uncomfortable, is the gateway to the next step, and it will require something rare these days: the courage to be different. Being yourself in a world that insists you be the same is almost an act of war, but it's a silent war, fought every day between who you are and who they expect you to be. And here's the point: living authentically will cost you some things: approval, comfort, praise. But what you gain can't be bought: inner peace, clarity, the certainty that you're living your truth, not a script they wrote for you. Of course it's not easy. You'll disappoint people. You'll hear you've changed like it's an insult. You'll feel alone in some phases. But all of this is part of the pruning. When you distance yourself from what doesn't represent you, you start creating space for what really matters. Practical example? Start saying no when you want to say no. That alone is revolutionary. That alone starts breaking the persona that imprisons you. And the more you practice this conscious rebellion, the stronger you become. And then a new question arises. If you don't be you, who will? Because the world doesn't need more copies. It needs real people. People who inspire not because they please, but because they are. And when this authenticity finds your center, something profound happens. Something that goes far beyond being accepted. It's the beginning of an encounter. The encounter with the self. There's a moment, rare and transformative, when everything goes quiet. The masks fall away, the noise stops, and a deep presence reveals itself. Jung called this the encounter with the self, the true you, which isn't built, but discovered. It's the center of the psyche, the silent compass that was always there. When you encounter the self, something inside you aligns, and that alignment is priceless. It's like coming home after a lifetime of being lost. Don't confuse this with ego. The self doesn't shout, doesn't show off, doesn't compete. It simply is. And when you live from it, decisions become clearer, relationships more authentic, and life lighter. Even in the storms, it's as if a part of you, forgotten until now, finally takes the wheel. Examples? That person who dropped everything to live off their art. Or that professional who, after burnout, decided to create a project with purpose. These aren't impulses. They're reunions. And this reunion isn't an end, it's a new beginning. Because when you discover who you truly are, you also discover what you came here to do. Life stops being a survival game and becomes an expression of presence. But this only happens when you stop running, when you quiet the external noise and dive deep. And in that dive, something begins to emerge, something that will prepare you for the next and most important step. How to start this journey today. Jung's path isn't a philosophical maze reserved for scholars. It starts now with something simple, questions. Not just any questions, but the ones you avoid. What in me have I been ignoring? Which parts of my story do I hide even from myself? Answering this doesn't require a master's degree. It requires courage. It requires paper, pen, and silence. Write, meditate, observe. You don't need to understand everything. You just need to start listening. For those who've never stopped to look within, everything seems foggy at first. But that fog starts to lift when you create rituals of presence. It could be waking up 10 minutes earlier and writing down your dreams. It could be practicing silence before bed, or even using books as guides, like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, or Man and His Symbols by Jung himself. The important thing is to make space to listen to yourself. And as you keep listening, something changes. Small intuitions begin to surface. Patterns start to reveal themselves. And you realize that what bothered you about the world was a reflection of what was disorganized within. This isn't magic, it's awareness. And it gently pushes you toward a point of no return. A point where living on autopilot is no longer an option. And that's exactly when time starts to weigh heavy. Live with truth before it's too late. Time doesn't shout, doesn't warn, doesn't wait. It passes, and while you postpone who you are, an invisible script keeps being written, but not by you. Jung gave us a warning. Living someone else's life is the most subtle form of self-sabotage. Many people only realize this when they have already accumulated empty achievements, applause that doesn't fulfill, and a schedule packed with obligations that reflect no purpose whatsoever. Living with truth is a silent urgency. Don't wait for your body to get sick to understand that you've lost yourself. Don't wait for anxiety to implode your routine to start questioning the path. It's now. At any moment, you can decide to do things differently. You can say enough to what doesn't make sense and say yes to yourself. You don't need to quit everything, become a monk, or disappear into the mountains. Sometimes living with truth is just stopping lying with your own smile. It's coming home within yourself. And if you're reading this and feel something awakening, don't ignore it. Because life always gives signs. But it doesn't beg, it shows. A conversation, a video, a discomfort, a repetition. And each of these signs could be the last warning before another year just like the rest. The question is, will you keep postponing the encounter with who you were born to be? Or will you finally make the decision that changes everything? Now that you've walked this path, tell me, will you keep ignoring what your soul is screaming? Or will you finally listen to yourself? The answer is right there inside. And maybe for the first time, you're ready to hear it. Don't wait for chaos to knock on your door to change. Change now. Start with one step, one question, one more honest choice. What in you is sleeping and needs to wake up? Which part of your life is quietly betraying you? Write it down in the comments. Share your perspective. Your journey could inspire other people. And if this video moved you, it's because you're ready for a new chapter. But a new chapter requires new action. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and continue with me on this journey of self-discovery. Here, you'll discover what nobody told you about being yourself. And if you want to take the next step, watch the video that's on the screen now. It'll show you how to get off autopilot and start living with truth again. Click there. See you in the next video.